Hello and welcome to my presentation. My name is Dom Price from Atlassian. I am our resident work futurist and I'm really glad to be here at Miro Distributed 2020 sharing some stories with you today. This is a really exciting time. I know the future of work is a hot topic and I know we're all going through a lot of change. There's a few things I want to share with you today to help you lead through all this uncertainty and all this change. Before I start, I actually want to give you some context around the Atlassian values. Now, these aren't important in many ways to how we're working today, but in reality they are. They guide how we work, they guide who we hire, they guide how we connect. And if you think about the distributed world, a world of remote employees where we can't hang out in person, our values are more important than ever before. There's a couple of values that are going to be quite prominent in my talk today. One is open company, no BS. I'm going to share some Atlassian secrets with you. One is don't bleep the customer. How can you delight your customers every single day? And the final one is, how can you be the change you seek? How can you drive change and evolution in your organization? So when I start these presentations, I like to start with a quote. This is a quote I've been using for a few years, and it's something that I hold to be true. And the reason I'm sharing this with you today is there's so much amazing content in this course, in this presentation, and in this session. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to just acquire knowledge. You see, the dysfunction that we suffer today, that dysfunction is the gap between what we know and what we do, what we apply, what we practice. I think the winners in today's environment are those people that do, that try, that experiment, practice, explore, not the ones that just acquire knowledge. So as you go through Distributed 2020, don't get knowledge obesity. Get practical, find the things that you can do, the things that you can change. Now, I have been working as a work futurist for a while now, and there's a lot of talks out there and thought leadership around the utopian view of the future of work and the dystopian view of the future of work. The utopian view is that we're all going to be working for our working weeks, have lots of leisure time, we're all going to be relaxed, and the sun will be shining. Kind of not true, right? The dystopian view is also quite sad. It's grey skies outside, we're all going to be working for the robots, the machines will rule the world. And I don't think either of those is true. What is true, though, are some of the themes that we can tap into. And I think if we can all understand these themes, we can be better leaders. Themes around the fact that there are increased competition in virtually every industry. The traditional barriers to competition and barriers to entry have been challenged by technology. Software has enabled us to compete in industries we didn't normally want to compete in. The fact that in every industry you can either be the disruptor or the disrupted. And actually it's not always bad to be disrupted. Some people want to be a fast follower. The fact that your customers, in whatever sector or segment you're in, your customer expectations and the experience they have increases every single day. The fact that we're all now working in distributed teams. In fact, many of us were pre-COVID, but it's like we've poured accelerant on it. Every company, every leader I speak to is embraced in the war for talent. No one's hiring the B players, so how do we hire the A players where they are, which isn't always where we are? And how do we form those lasting relationships? And how do we not let this wonderful thing lead our life? Just because we can always be on doesn't mean we should always be on. How do we build the discipline of not working 24/7, but working at the right time, in the right place, and doing the right thing? And then how do we do this and build a faster pace of innovation? Not just for our customers, but because our employees are now demanding the chance to be innovative, the chance to have impact. So when I spoke to the team from Miro, I was really excited about doing this. It was like 100 things I wanted to talk about. Unfortunately, they only gave me 25 minutes. So I've narrowed it down to 3 things that I want to share with you today. 3 super awesome things that I think will be able to help you amplify yourself. The first one is context. Let's just be honest, 2020 is a weird year, right? And we're in a weird world right now. Whether it be climate, whether it be fires, whether it be political uncertainty, economic uncertainty, that little thing called COVID, everything that we knew to be true is kind of being challenged. And therefore we need to reestablish our context. I've been fortunate to work with companies of all shapes and sizes across the world in the last few years. Companies going through agile transformation, digital transformation, culture transformation, all kinds of transformation. And let's just be honest, transformation is just a sexy word that consultants came up with to charge more for change. But let's be honest again, if companies are having to transform, how do we think about that? Well, one way is to think about what are the things that we can influence. When I think about the things that we can influence, the very first thing is people. I think the most thriving and successful and resilient organizations are the ones that are human, that put people at the center of their organization. What do we mean by people? People's skill set, their mindset, the growth mindset, the ability to learn, develop and grow, diversity, inclusion, how you think about the people you hire, and are you getting the right people in? Are you tapping into that broad spectrum of people with different skills, capabilities and mindsets? The next thing we get to influence as leaders is practices. This used to be called process. Right? When I graduated university in the year 2000, I was taught about process, but process was all about adherence and compliance, and process was about certainty. Process works when we know the things we're trying to achieve. But 2020 is not that year. With all the change that's going on, practices or guardrails can often be more effective. Guardrails are kind of rituals, ceremonies, ways of working that are about 80% baked. And then your role as a leader is to do the final 20%. Adapt them to the environment you're in, because we can't predict the environment you're in. The third thing we get to influence that's going through a huge amount of change is the products and technology that we deploy across our organizations. And historically, this is where a lot of leaders have started. What's the best tool for the job? I have a challenge for that though, because we know that a fool with a tool is still a fool. You've just made them faster. So be very careful who you give technology to. In my experience, the best transformations I've seen in the last few years and the best companies that have adapted to COVID are the ones that have got the right people in place first, found practices and ways of working that amplify those people's skill sets and mindsets, and then deploy technology or products that amplify that even further. If you start with technology, it doesn't mean you'll get it wrong, but you want to make sure that you have people, practices, and technology. And then the fourth aspect is place. Often forgotten, COVID's taught us that place is very important. Traditionally, this was the office space. But if you think about it, we've had many places where we've worked for years. People would often work from home, they'd occasionally work from the office, work from the airline, work from the airport lounge, work from the shop on a Saturday when you're strolling around and answering emails. We really have disrupted place, and COVID's just amplified that even further. Now, a lot of people, a lot of leaders, a lot of companies pick one of these and try and be best of breed, best practice, best in class. And I want to challenge that. I actually believe the most important thing here is to be congruent. Not the best in any one of these four, but consistent with how you think about people, practices, the technology you deploy, and place. Now, once you've worked out influence and what you're trying to influence, you can then go on to who. Who are the stakeholders that you're trying to impact? Now, we are wholly selfish at Atlassian. I don't mind admitting this. Whenever we come up with a new idea, we play with it ourselves first. We call it dog fooding when we do it with products. We also do it with all of our practices. We experiment on our own teams. And once we've done that, we then think about how we can positively impact our customers. Now, there's an important distinction here for us in how we separate out customers from users. Customers are often the people buying our products or deploying or administrating our products. But our users are the people we're truly trying to delight. They might not have as loud a voice, but we really care about how they use our products and what they think. There's other influencers. It could be the technology platform, the cloud platform you rely on, AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. And then also the broader ecosystem. We actually have more people building in the Atlassian ecosystem, building apps and plugins for our products than we actually have at Atlassian. And again, it's not about being best at any one of these. It's about being consistent and congruent. You want the experience across these to be similar. And that's because of Conway's law. Conway's law states that however you organize your organization, the structure that you have, eventually you ship your org chart to your customers and your users. And so make sure that you're practicing on yourself first and you're being authentic when you share that with customers, users, influencers, and your ecosystem. Now, in COVID times, it's not just about who you're trying to influence and the things you're trying to influence, it's about when. There is a reality to COVID that said, you know what? We just need to do some stuff now. Let's stop dreaming about the future because we can do that another time. We've got this immediate burning platform and crisis management of COVID. But as we come out of the constraints of COVID and this distributed world becomes more normal and maybe our next normal, how can we start to plan and build our future? A future that's going to be different from the past. Now, the reality is all these things come together. It's not just about the people that you can influence, the what you can influence or when. Now, what COVID taught us was a lot of organizations, a lot of people thought it was all about place. We were one of those. At last, we were like, yeah, within 48 hours, We had the right technology in place to flip everyone to work from home. Within 48 hours, 5,000 employees around the globe working from home. But the reality was the thing that we needed to invest in and change was our practices, our ways of working. Because we copy, cut and pasted the working week from an in-person environment to a distributed environment, and it kind of didn't work. It wasn't awful, but nor was it optimal. And once we got that working for ourselves, we shared it with others, and we had to solve it in the now first. What we actually then realized was, having solved the now, having sort of triaged the patient, we could then start to envisage what does that future look like and start to be more creative. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is you. We've already mentioned selfishness and how Atlassian starts with itself. I also want you to realize that you have to start with yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself. And to do that requires you investing in yourself. Now, this is quite ironic for a lot of leaders that I work with. I'm still surprised by the number of leaders I work with that are driving global transformations for large companies, and yet they're not trying to transform themselves. They think everyone else needs to change, but they're okay. And that's not cool for me. I think the best leaders I work with are authentic, vulnerable, have empathy, and are willing to lead by role modeling. And I think every single one of you is also a role model. Whether you're role modeling to your colleagues, to your friends, to your family, or your community. We're all role models. It's not a title we ever get, but everyone that you know looks at you and admires something about you. So how can you be the best version of yourself? Now, I was struggling with this a few years ago. I was traveling from Australia, where I live and work, and I was actually on a business trip to New York. And I met a wonderful lady by the name of Sophie Wade. Now, Sophie was mentoring me at the time, and she gave me this exercise to do. And the reason she gave it was I was struggling to evolve myself. I felt like I was in a bit of a rut. I was probably working more, but I wasn't getting more effective. I was that annoying person that when you met them on a Friday and you said, "How was your week?" I'm like, busy. And they're like, you were effective, you're productive, you had a great week. I'm like, busy, workshop busy, scrum busy, stand-up busy, ceremonies busy, offsite busy. I don't want to be busy. I want to be effective. And when I gave Sophie this challenge, she gave me the 4Ls exercise. In the 2.5 years since we did that exercise in New York, I now do this exercise every 90 days. It requires me to shine a mirror in front of myself and focus purely on me as a leader, not externally, not my team, not my colleagues, on me as a leader. And I ask myself these 4 questions. I look back at the previous 90 days and I say, what have I loved? What's the thing that I've done as a leader that I've loved? Not liked. Life is too short for liked. What's the thing that I've loved? If it's valuable, it's probably my superpower, and I should do more of it. I should unashamedly own it. I should share with my colleagues so they know how to tap into my superpower, so they know how to deploy it. Once I've worked out what I've loved, I then have 2 questions that work in concert. The first one is, what have I longed for? What's the thing that I've wished I'd done as a leader that I haven't done? Probably been on your to-do list for a while. You just never get round to it because you're full. Cognitively, we are all full. Time-wise, we are all full. Burnout is at an epic rate. Stop adding stuff in until you found the thing that you loathe. The thing that as a leader, you're like, it's a habit, it's a ritual, it's a thing that I do. It's just not paying a dividend anymore, or it's not going to pay an increased dividend. How can I find a way of stopping that to give myself the space, the time, and the freedom to add in the longed for? And then the 4th L is, what have I learned? What's the thing that I experimented on in the last 90 days? What's the thing that maybe came from left field and challenged me and hit me? This is a really important exercise because you can't do more. You just haven't got the time. And so give yourself that space and time and freedom. A quick example, a few months ago, I realized that one of the things I loathed was all the meetings I was in. Now the smart ones in the room are going to go, hang on, how does that reflect on you as a leader? When I dug into that, the real thing I hated, and this is a secret between me and you, I was a control freak. I was attending meetings I didn't need to be in for fear of missing out, maybe because I didn't trust the people that I was delegating those meetings to make the right decisions. Maybe I was just a bit egotistical and thought the meeting was only going to be effective if I was there, but it was consuming hours and hours of any given week. And so I decided to delete a whole lot of those meetings. Either I delegated them to people that could do a far better job than me, I managed to get out of the way of some of my colleagues, or I asked the people who were holding those meetings, what's my role in the meeting? What's the purpose of the meeting? What are you going to hold me accountable for? And so I managed to remove a whole lot of meetings from my calendar, some of which just existed because they once existed. You know, those recurring meetings that just stick around forever. I did an amazing spring clean and I got about 15 hours of my week back. The thing that I was longing to do was more coaching and mentoring. But I actually found it quite hard because it had been a while since I'd coached or mentored. I really enjoy it, but it'd been a while. And here's the thing about the long for. You have to have the humility to realize that as you try and add in new muscle, you might not be great at it first time. It's likely going to take practice. So when I find a loathe, I speak to my colleagues. Often we use a safe word. And I say, if I accidentally add that habit back in, use the safe word and I'll quickly remove myself. With the long for, when I share that with my peers and my colleagues, they will often say, you want to be better at that? You should chat to Sarah. You want to get better at that? You should chat to Mary. That's their superpower. And when I share my loved, it's me giving permission to all of my friends, my colleagues, to utilize me in a better way. The learned, it's just a gift that keeps on giving, because the more you share with your peers, the more you'll share back. I've learned more as a leader from this exercise and sharing it with my colleagues than any business book, Harvard Business Review, article, LinkedIn page, you name it, because I'm getting real life examples and I'm driving my own evolution. And I believe you can do the same. You don't need a business case. You don't need any approval. The first time I did this exercise with Sophie, I did it with a glass of Pinot Noir. I've done it with tea, coffee, or soft drink. All you have to do is to be honest with yourself and control the power of rationalization that we all have in our brains. So once you've done that, you've then understood what we're trying to improve here. You see, the 4Ls isn't just about you evolving, it's about us arresting a change. Average working hours are increasing. We can't continue with that. COVID has added even more time to our working day. Over 80% of companies are solving problems so complex they have to be solved by teams. So we're doing longer hours, more complex work. And we all know that technology and automation is going to take away the simple mundane tasks. You have to do the 4Ls, not just to evolve yourself, but to stay relevant and to thrive in the modern business and in the future of work. So once you've nailed all that, you're now an amazing individual. You're going to turn up as the best version of yourself. Now you can be a true force multiplier in your team. You see, the secret is teamwork. We know that the most complex problems need teams. We know that diversity and inclusion creates more innovation. And so how do we create high achieving teams? Now this bit's actually quite simple. There is so much material on having a mission or a North Star, measuring progress, having techniques for sharing, communicating, and collaborating. High achieving teams aren't that complex, but there's a flip side to high achievement. In fact, we may have over-indexed on high achievement. And what we've not realized, or maybe few companies have realized, is the secret is emotional well-being, the balance of high performance and sustainability. How can we create teams that can actually continue to grow, evolve, and thrive? Focusing on team cohesion, team belonging, not just having diversity, but an environment of inclusion where everyone genuinely feels like they can be their true, authentic version of themselves. How do we find ways of socializing and sharing so that we just care about our colleagues? Now, years ago, we'd been practicing on ourselves, as I mentioned before at Atlassian. We built something called the Atlassian Team Playbook. Originally, we just ran it internally. And after a couple of years, one of our co-CEOs, Mike Cannon-Brooks, sat me down. He's like, Dom, you've got a presentation called The Secret Sauce of Atlassian. Why not just call it The Source? Why don't we just share this with the world? So about 5 years ago, we shared the Atlassian Team Playbook with the world, free of charge. 3 main components: health monitors. We've built health monitors for project teams, service teams, and leadership teams. They are an opinionated view of what a healthy team looks like. We've also built plays. Once you've done the health monitor and found areas where you might want to improve, the plays are the exercises you can run to build that muscle, to get better. And then we've built game plans, where we've combined a few plays and health monitors for specific team types: DevOps, annual planning, HR and people teams. The way this works is incredibly simple. We've built it like a recipe card. On our website, you'll see a whole lot of instructions of how you do the play. We've even got video tutorials in there. And then we've built templates. If you take the health monitor as an example, we actually gather around as a team and use our thumbs. Thumb up, thumb sideways, thumb down. We're really good at this. We're healthy. We're a little bit sick, not so good. We're unhealthy. How do we rate ourselves as a team? How do we share our unique viewpoint on the world? We've also then combined that with the exercises. Here's an example play from the playbook, the retrospective. Probably one of the most valuable plays in the playbook when done well. Sadly, I've seen too many teams run retrospectives in other organizations and not follow through on the actions. So again, the recipe card shows you what preparation time you need, how long it takes to run, how many people you need. And we give examples of different tools, techniques, whether you're in person, remote, and different tools, whether it be Trello or Miro, that you can use to document. Now, recently we conducted some research from 5,000 employees around the world from organizations of all shapes and sizes to understand the impact of work from home and COVID. And off the back of that research, we've built a new play, freshly launched recently, called Work-Life Impact. The reason we built this is we found that every individual in your organization experiences work from home differently. And it's based on 3 factors: their actual household, their care responsibilities, the number of people in the house, their role complexity, how many other people they need to interact with, can they work individually, or they're highly reliant on teams, and their network, their social network, and also their work network. How connected are they? And we've been running this exercise with teams of all shapes and sizes across Atlassian. And now we're really proud to share it externally. Here you'll see the Miro template. It's got the purpose and the approach on the left-hand side, all the background across the top, and at the bottom, a live board. A live board where all of your teammates get to share their unique experience in how they're finding working from home. And it's prompted an absolutely amazing series of conversations. In fact, it's answered questions we would probably never have asked. This isn't just a meeting. This is about building empathy and understanding for all your teammates. Because you've got to remember, when we all worked in an office, it was a great leveler. We all had the same Wi-Fi, the same seats, the same desk, the same toilet, the same food, the same drink, the same everything. Work from home isn't the same. Everyone is having a different experience. And using this Miro template, you can find ways of opening up that empathy, that curiosity, and that understanding for the unique situation all your teammates are in. Again, completely free of charge, no business case. You just have to be willing to invest the time and effort. If you need someone to vouch for you, I actually ran one of the first sessions in Atlassian with our exec team, with Scott and Mike, our co-CEOs, and our 11 most senior executives. And it really was a rewarding conversation for all of them to learn each different person's unique perspective on how they were finding working from home. If you've ever said you're a people organization or you put people first, give this play a try. Not only is that play available on Miro, but on Miro Universe, you've got a whole of other plays from the Atlassian team playbook that you can access. Templates that give you the chance to start. They're not finished, they're not 100% baked. They're guardrails and guidelines that enable you to start with the right intent and work with your team to find better, more effective ways of working. Again, free of charge. Give them a go. So once you've understood your context, you understand the world around you, the changes we're going through with COVID and work from home and distributed teams, you understand how you can be the best version of yourself by unleashing your potential, by finding your 4Ls and driving your own evolution. And then you turn up in your team as a true force multiplier, as someone that's going to amplify that team to be even better. So the question is, how do we get there? Now we understand this future. What do we need to do? Is it someone's job? And it is. It's your job, whoever you are. It's all of our jobs. My ask of you is that start by unleashing your potential first. Be the best version of yourself. Then turn up to your team and genuinely be an amplifier, a multiplier for that team. Whether it be challenging, listening, the way you deliver with passion, your ideas, your compassion, your ability to build an inclusive environment where people feel safe. And once you do that, you'll truly unleash the potential of your organization. You may notice I've not put customers on here. If you get these 3 things right, your customers will be delighted. Trust me. So thank you in advance for your time here. Thank you for joining the conversation. Thank you for being part of the Miro universe and for being part of the Atlassian universe. We're really hopeful that we can all build a better future together, and that starts with you. If you have any questions, I'm at Dom Price on LinkedIn and Twitter, or go to the Atlassian team playbook and have a play with some of our plays or the Miro templates. Thank you.